you. This is the third time that you give us the privilege to talk to you, our La Voce, and we are more than pleased. Now, this year, I have a question for you. After observing you all this year, we consider yourself the most elegant mayor in all U.S. cities, and I wonder if you have an Italian tailor.
Italian name?
Italian tailor for your suit.
Taylor. Actually, I don't. My tailor is not from Italy. It's a young, up and coming African American designer.
Okay.
If you could refer me to one, that would be great.
We will send you a note. We have plenty in Italy, in New York, Italian American in New York that do excellent.
Great.
Okay. Very good. So I leave David for the first question.
Hi, Mr. Mayor. Nice to see you again. I've been seeing you at the off topics, and it's nice to meet you in this context as well. Just to hit things off, after you met with Tom Homan a month ago, you stated that his goal is the same goal that you have. Since then, Tom Homan has stated that children of immigrants born in the U.S. who are citizens would be, quote, put in halfway houses, and that parents could be deported with or without their children. That would be up to them. That sounds like family separation. Would New York City go along with such a plan?
Well, first, I want to be very clear. When the two of us sat down, I shared with my desires of getting those who commit serious violent acts and they are undocumented after they serve their time, they should be removed from our city. I stood by that, and I said that prior to the election. Actually, I've been saying it for almost 2 years now. And it's not my desire to see families separated. It's not my desire to see anyone that is functioning, moving on the next step of their American journey, not given the opportunity to do so. But we have to be extremely clear. As I sat down with my team and spoke with them over and over again so I can dig into these policies. The federal government has the exclusive authority to deal with immigrations. It is the federal government job. Now, the police department would not coordinate with that, but they also will not get in the way of the job of the federal authorities. It is their job to do it, and we all should allow the federal agencies that have that authority to do it in a manner that is as humane as possible and as they see fit. I do not have control over immigration. And in fact, that was my complaint, that we spent $6.5 billion on immigration when the federal government should have secured our borders, had real immigration reform, and paid for what happened to our cities.
Mayor, the talk of today is congestion price, especially for people that lives in that area. I'm sure that you get many feedback. I'm sure that the data must come in order to have a better evaluation. But so far, after 72 hours, do you think that this system will work in the future? New Yorker will understand, accept, or it will be simply no, a no vote?
Well, I think that time is going to tell what success we have with congestion prices. Right now, they are analyzing daily, and they're going to do an analysis of what the success is, what has to be tinkered with, what has to be changed. One thing many people don't know when they talk about waivers, they are not aware or may not be aware that the law requires $1 billion a year to be raised. So every dollar you take off of those who you give a waiver to is going to go to those who don't have a waiver. And so we have to be clear on that. Second, this is the state, the MTA, and the governor's decision. I wish it would have been a decision of the city council and the mayor, because these streets are in our city, but that is not what happened. We are creatures of Albany. The decision comes from Albany. I don't have a say-so in how this is going to be executed, what the cost is going to be. We don't have that authority, but we did lobby to get $100 million for those areas surrounding the congestion pricing zone because of environmental issues. And we were able to get some waivers like disabilities, people with disabilities. But the fact is, this is the governor and the state lawmakers and the MTA's decision on how it's going to be carried out. Many people think the mayor has that decision, but we do not have that decision.
You recently managed to restart negotiations regarding doctors who are planning to go on strike and managed to get them to push back a deadline. Where are we on that now?
Yeah, listen. I was just speaking with the medical examiner, the commissioner of the ME office, and we were talking about this. Listen, our doctors must get a respectable salary. The competition is unbelievable when you look at the private industry. In addition, we have a real shortage of some of the healthcare professionals that we need. So the competitiveness is what New York City must remain at that highest level. The doctors are willing to come to the table to negotiate. We don't pay these doctors directly. They're paid by outside organizations and agents and companies. But we are saying, let's everyone get to the table. We're hoping that they would have taken us up on a 60-day cooling down period, but they don't want to do that. They're looking to strike near the end of January, and we're hoping they can come to a resolution before that.
Mr. Mayor, the 2025 will be a very important year, especially for you, no? And elections are coming, new president start working in 10 days. I have a question. The fact that Andrew Cuomo signaled that he was willing to run, do you think that this time, 2025, the Italian-American community must have a decision to split between you and him because you get the good support from the Italian-American community last time, and I'm pretty sure that people like you, they're willing to continue. But the presence of Andrew, is it going to be an obstacle for you facing the primary, or simply whatever wants to come on board, you're willing to?
Yes, and listen, there's nothing wrong with cultural pride. I believe in that. And there are Italian Americans that are excited for an Italian candidate since the days of LaGuardia, who's one of the greatest mayors we've ever seen. They're going to make that decision. I have to convince them based on what I did in the city, from revitalizing our economy to my housing initiative, to my public safety initiative. I am clearly in alignment with my principles and belief with the Italian community. The community believes in family, they believe in faith, they believe in public safety, they believe in business, and I have advocated a real common sense approach to government. And many of my Italian American constituents have been extremely supportive of that, from not only for the substantive things I did in the city, but even the symbolism of marching in the parade, standing side by side with those tough issues that the Italian Americans have experienced in this city. I look forward for their support. Some are going to have me number 2 on their ballot because ranked choice voted because Andrew's in the race. That's quite possible, but I have to sell what I've done in the city, and I know I'll be ranked somewhere among Italian Americans in this city.
Mayor, yesterday during your speech at the state of the city, you mentioned, you drop a big number, 100,000 homes, you know, for people, for mentally ill
In Manhattan.
and in Manhattan. So is this realistic? You want to stay mayor for another 12 years or what, in order to realize this project?
Well, what you do as mayor, it's a marathon. And even when I hand off the baton to the next mayor, if it's in 4 years or if it's any other time, I need to hand off to him things that I put in the pipeline for the future. Those 100,000 new homes and units of housing in Manhattan is because we know we cannot build or buy more land, or build more land, I should say. You have to use the land that you have. And so we were successful in Albany of getting a real housing and land proposal, converting office space into permanent housing, raising the FAR, and doing other creative things. And because of that, we were able to hit the next aspect of it, and that was success for City of Yes, the most comprehensive housing proposal in the history of this city. And so now we have new opportunities. So we're going to build on top of post offices, libraries, anywhere that we could think differently about building. And that is how we're going to come up with those 100,000 units of housing. I told every agency in the city that you are to look at existing city agencies and make sure that we see the building capability. We're doing that on Gold Street. It is a place where city offices are located. We're going to look to convert some of that space into housing. So this is a great way of using the land and the buildings that we currently have.
What about affordability of these prices? Because reconstruct or it's even more.
That's crucial. We said it over and over again, not only in my State of the City speech, but how I have been running the city. It's about affordability. You got a blue collar mayor that has a blue collar mindset. $30 billion we have placed back in the pockets of working class people. Everything from medical debt relief to building the largest amount of housing and breaking records in year 1 and year 2, and we're sure we're going to break it in year 3. But it's about affordability. It's about middle, low income, and moderate income, because my teacher and accountant needs housing just as my fast food workers need housing. And so we know that affordability is important. And when we use pre-existing lands or buildings, we can bring down the cost of building the housing to ensure we can get more affordable units.
Mr. Mayor, you've been talking a lot about public safety on the subway recently, and the challenges of meeting actual the challenges of meeting people's perceptions of safety. Are the additional hundreds of officers that you've committed to going in the subway really the right way to do that in the face of these high-profile cases that have happened nonetheless?
Yes, and I'm glad you asked that, because my job is to make sure the subways are safe. That's the primary job. And in addition to that, I must make people feel safe on the system. So when you look at the first aspect of my job, we've accomplished that. You have to go back to 2009 to see the subways as safe as they are now, when you take out the 2 COVID years when no one was on the system. And let's be clear, we have almost 4.6 million riders on our subway system, with an average of 6 felonies a day out of the 4.6 million riders. And the random acts of violence that we have experienced has overshadowed that success. And the best way to deal with the feeling of New Yorkers to match our success of bringing down crime is the omnipresence of that blue uniform. When I'm in the subway system, talking to riders, talking to those who work in the system, they say they feel much better when they see that uniform presence. And that's what I have instructed Commissioner Tisch to do, to find more ways of the visibility of our officers, riding the trains, walking through the trains, interacting with the public. And so the success of bringing down crime must be matched with the success of people feeling safe, and the omnipresence of the police officers is one way of doing that. And the second way is we have to seriously remove those with severe mental health illnesses off our subway system. And that is why I'm calling on Albany to pass the involuntary removal bill that Assemblyman Brunstein has put into place. So it's a combination. There are many rivers that feed the sea of not feeling safe. We have to dam each one of those rivers, and it's the role of the city, the state, and the federal government to do so.
Just a quick follow-up. A part of your public safety discourse over the past week, you've been talking about the decriminalization of public urination as an issue. But back in 2016, as borough president, it seemed that you had a different position on that particular issue. Can you clarify?
No, not at all. I never felt that a person should be publicly urinating, and I'm not sure what gave the indication that I had a different feeling on it, because I've always been consistent. Quality of life issues are important to me. Someone that's publicly urinating should be held accountable for it. If it's a summons, if it's some type of action. We cannot allow our city to erode to people injecting themselves with drugs in public urination, and a host of other things that are being passed by the city council, such as the right to sleep in encampments on our streets, I do not support those quality of life of what I believe erosions of quality of life.
Mr. Mayor, the number of homeless increases. Do you think that there is a hope or not for that?
So do I think it's a
Number of homeless
uh-huh.
There is a risk to increase due to the cost and people living in cars and people living roommating with others. If your plan for urbanization for this 100,000 apartments is not quick, we have more people on the street because the affordability of New York is not. There is any quick remedy for that?
Well, I think that we have a national homeless crisis in general, but specifically, we have a homeless problem here in the city, and we are doing our part as city administrators. We, like I stated, we have broke records 2 years in a row in the amount of units of housing we've built. We've extended the number of people who are on FEPS vouchers. We moved more people out of shelters into permanent housing in year 1 and year 2 in the history of individual years in the city. We have opened more safe haven beds to transfer people into permanent housing. But we need help from Albany. We need help from our federal government. The housing crisis is a crisis that needs a trilateral support to get this done, and that's what we're doing here in the city, and we're going to continue to do that. The affordability is a real issue. I hear it all over the city of people unable to afford rent, and that is why we're leaning into all of our employment initiatives to get people back to working, dropping unemployment in the Black and Hispanic community by 20%. That's a significant turnaround, giving people real job training through our apprenticeship programs and pathway programs for young people, because we know a good paying job is the best way to end homelessness. And that's why we settled 97% of our union contracts, giving them good wages so they could afford and live in the city that they serve.
Mr. Mayor, thank you very much. And David, as a last quick question for you, and we let you go. I know that you passed the day jumping from one media to another. So.
There was a report from the comptroller's office this week about certificates of occupancy in buildings. In fact, from the comptroller Brad Lander, who is your opponent in the mayor's race. I think it's important to note that context. So what's the response to this report?
I'm not familiar with the report. What was the actual report?
The report said that there were thousands of buildings across the city that were operating without valid certificates of occupancy, temporary or otherwise, TCOs or just CEOs in general. And there were a number of buildings across the city that lacked this, meaning that they had unresolved building code and fire code issues.
Yeah, well, we must have my commissioner of the Department of Buildings. Whenever the controller does an audit or a report, we look into that. And so we will have the Department of Buildings look into that report and make sure that we respond accordingly.
Okay. Thank you very much.
You.
Mr. Mayor,
have a great.
I hope we're going to have the chance to see you in 2025.
Look forward to have a great weekend, guys.
You too.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thank you.